Good morning. You're listening to WPVM LP in Asheville, North Carolina, 103.7 on the dial. This is the BLAINESWORLD Show, heard each Wednesday at 9 a.m., and you can also watch us on WPVM's Facebook page. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield. I'm here in my Zoom studio in Fairview, North Carolina. Each week we focus on the Asheville theater scene, as well as on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And to that, and it's my pleasure to introduce my first guest, and he is DJ Svoboda. And welcome aboard, DJ.
Thank you so much, Blaine. It's such a pleasure and honor to be on your awesome show this evening.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you. Also, by the way, you might want to wave to all your fans and friends in Facebook world. So if you're watching DJ, you can wave to them. If they're watching you, you can wave. You want to wave to everybody? If they're watching it, great.
Everybody. I hope you're all doing well and okay.
Okay, thank you. And DJ, I should mention, was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. The Imagifriends was inspired by the challenges that he had faced growing up with autism. He greatly believes for the Imagifriends, to change the world in above and beyond inspiring ways. And then, DJ, you kind of blew me away the very first time I met you, in that I met you at the Asheville Mall at a thing for the autism group, and you were reading a book. And let's talk about that book that you all of a sudden decided to write a book. What made you want to write a book?
Well, it's the desire and the dedication and devotion to see the Imagifriends, to help the world to understand that autism is to be known and to be understood, because children, teens and adults with autism of all ages are very important and very valuable too. Just like everybody else, they want to be loved and accepted for who they are. And we want to help the world to understand that everybody with autism thinks and feels and sees things and the world and life much more differently and from a very different point of view. The inspiration to do this new book came from how much I have this huge dream to one day see an Imagifriends book in bookstores and many other places to help educate the world more about autism and to help them to understand that if you give them a chance, you will see the amazing and awesome things that everyone with autism can do, because they have different gifts and different talents too that they can use to make this world into a better place. And it's never right to exclude them just because they're different. They have a great and amazing and awesome place in this world, just like everybody else does. And basically, the art that I do is based on those certain challenges that I faced growing up with autism. So it was the passion and the dedication and the devotion that inspired me to do this book, to educate the world more about it, to help them to understand more.
How long did it take you to write the book?
Well, it took about a year and a half to complete because I had been booked up with a lot of other different projects and taking care of a lot of art orders and doing the special coloring of a book for an organization called Kid Power. They help people to know what to do to end bullying and to protect themselves. And I got to do their first book. And whenever I did have a chance to do my book, I went back to that. And the last year, toward the summer season, I finally got the book completed, and it was definitely printed by the summer season.
Now, the artwork in your book, who did that?
I did.
Okay, wow. Well, why don't you, as we're talking about it, DJ, why don't you show the cover of the book?
Sure thing. This is what it's called. Bouncy Wouncy Marty.
Wait, hold it up a little higher so we see the whole cover. Perfect. Yeah. Go ahead.
This is the title. Bouncy Wouncy Marty shares a day of my life with autism. He's the newest Imagifriends member of the family.
Okay, and you mentioned Bouncy Bouncy Marty. Is that kind of based on your life?
Oh, yes, he's actually a cartoon version of me.
Okay, super. Can I ask you, DJ, what we're going to try here for the first time, but I'll mention it to the people watching on Facebook, but also to the listeners on the radio. You're actually I'm going to ask you to actually read the book to us, if you would. And I got the idea when I met you. I guess it was at the Asheville Mall, and it was the Arms Around ASD group. And they were having a open house, and all of a sudden I saw you were reading to a group of people, and I was part of that group, and I was like mesmerized by the not only by the story, but how you read it. So I'm going to ask you to do the same thing to us. In other words, if you're listening on the radio, DJ is going to be reading the book. At the same time, he'll be showing the pages from the book, but you'll be able to get the idea just by listening to him read the story. So DJ, if I can have you jump in right there, starting with, we'll skip the introduction and just go right into the beginning of the book. And maybe you want to show the picture first and then read, or vice versa. What do you think?
Oh, anyway, that is definitely super fine.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll have you quickly show it, then you read it, then maybe show it at the end. But why don't you, let's see how it looks when you show it. So DJ's showing
Okay.
a first page of his book, and you want to hold it just a little higher, DJ, when you show it. Perfect. Okay, and why don't you take it from there?
All righty. Hello, everyone. My name is Bouncy Bouncy Marty. It is very nice to meet you. I have autism. Sometimes it can be a challenge living with autism, but it is an especially important part of who I am. I am very happy to be me. There are lots of children, teens, and adults around the world who have autism just like me. And like me, they want to be loved and accepted for who they are. They want to be included and be treated with love and respect. I deeply believe the world needs to know more about autism. In this book, I will share with you situations from my life with autism, so hopefully you can understand what it is and learn more about it. Let's begin now.
Okay. Hold it up just a little higher. Perfect. And so take it away from there, if you would.
I have a very special ball that is very important to me. His name is Bouncer. He has my favorite colors of light green and a nice aquamarine color. No other colors will do. He is very bouncy, just like me, and he feels particularly good in my hand. I love to squeeze him. I must have him with me wherever I go. He is also kind of squishy. He may seem like just like a ball to others, but to me, he is a special buddy and my security. I never use him to hurt anybody. I use him when I am very happy. When I am happy, I love to bounce it and watch it go very high without hitting anybody or anything. When I am upset or feeling mad, I love to jump on him. Sometimes I squeeze it very hard. My special bouncy ball helps me adapt to my always changing world and environment. Just like Bouncy Bouncy Marty has a ball, I have a flapper. He is a blue towel right here on my shoulder. Only blue will do. I love him to be soft and smell like my favorite fabric softener. I wear him over my right shoulder all the time. I can never be without him. So we always make sure we have extras. He is my security. Lots of individuals with autism carry special items that mean a lot to them. What may seem like it is not a big deal to others may be an excessively big deal to someone with autism. Please do not ever take their special item away. This is the next page.
Okay, next shows, what does that show, Daniel? For the people listening to the radio, what does it show? Gotcha. So describe the picture to people.
Oh, this picture talks about how sometimes Bouncy Marty has trouble with eye contact, and I kind of have the same trouble. I don't look at people directly in the eye because sometimes it doesn't make me feel good, but that doesn't mean I'm ignoring anybody because I'm not.
Okay, great. Okay, so now you want to read from the book then, or you
Sure
just did
thing.
that? Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges I face every day is making eye contact. I love talking to and visiting with my awesome friends and incredible family. When we are all talking, they understand that I cannot make eye contact. I love meeting new people and making and meeting new friends. I sometimes feel bad when new people talk to me and I cannot look at them into the eye. I promise that I am not trying to be mean or rude, but making eye contact makes me feel extremely nervous and at times dizzy. Just because I am not able to make eye contact does not mean I do not hear you. I do. I am listening. Making direct eye contact is not easy for many with autism. Please remember that if they are not making eye contact, they are not being rude, mean, or disrespectful.
Great.
This
Okay.
is next page.
And the next page shows what, DJ?
This next page shows how much he loves to be silly. In fact, I love being silly and full of energy all the time, too.
Okay, I've noticed that. Go ahead now, read the page if you would, please.
You got it? One very important thing that I want the world to know is that I love being silly. Being silly is a part of who I am. I enjoy being silly all the time unless I'm not feeling well. I believe that there are many things in life that do not have to
And I think we've
seriously. Being silly makes me feel great, and being silly makes me me. I also love being silly for my family too. It brings me lots of joy to help others feel good about themselves, and I try not to be very loud when I am silly. Most of all, being silly is one big way that I express my joyful feelings. Lots of children, teens, and adults with autism love to be silly too. It is one big way that they express and show their feelings in different ways. Have fun. Be silly. Be you.
okay. Next page, if you would. Got to hold it up a little higher. And this looks like a whole bunch of clothing. DJ, if you would read the next page and tell us what that
Sure
page is all
thing.
about.
Different kinds of clothing is also something that I must talk about. Certain kinds of clothing do not feel very good on me. I prefer soft t-shirts, very soft shorts, windsuit pants, and soft coats during the fall and winter. I do not like sweaters, jeans, or sweatshirts, or heavy mittens, or turtleneck sweaters, long sleeve shirts, and collared and buttoned shirts. I do not like anything around my neck. It makes me feel like I am choking. Zippers and buttons are difficult for me to manipulate. Anytime my mom buys new clothes for me, they must be washed multiple times and soaked in fabric softener until they feel soft and comfortable on my skin. Before putting on any item of clothing, I first feel it and then smell it. If the item of clothing meets my expectations, then I will put it on. Everyone with autism has a special style of clothing that they feel most comfortable with.
So I guess we won't ask you to wear a tie. Then is that correct?
No, I can't wear ties.
Okay, great. So this is next page. Looks like hold it a little higher if you would, and it looks like a whole bunch of neat kinds of illustrations of some fish, some other things. Daniel, describe what we're seeing on that next page if you would,
This
please.
page talks about sensory issues with food.
Okay.
A huge sensory issue for me involves food. There are some foods that I cannot tolerate. They make me feel sick. I respect that others like them, but I cannot eat them. Some of those foods include broccoli, fish, plump burgers, and other crunchy vegetables. It is not just the taste of these foods, it is also the texture and how they feel in my mouth. At times, I cannot even handle the sight or smell of certain foods. I cannot even stand to touch some foods. Certain foods give me a sick feeling in my mouth. Some of them even make me gag. I do not like foods that are too plump or too juicy. Sometimes even the smell of certain foods causes me to feel ill. I am not keen on lots of vegetables, but I do love different kinds of fruits. I also love pizza and spaghetti and cheeseburgers if they are not too plump. My list of favorite foods is so long I cannot name them all. Please remember, I respect there are lots of certain foods that are favorites to others, but some of them are not favorites to me. Everyone with autism has things that they like and things that they don't.
Okay. Next page. Okay, I'll maybe describe it. These are, it's interesting, a whole bunch of noises, it sounds like boom, pop, bang. Describe what's happening there, Daniel, if you would.
This page talks about sensory issues to loud noises. I am very sensitive ears and very sensitive hearing. This has always been a big challenge for me. I cannot stand unexpected noises. They make me extremely nervous. They also hurt my ears. I do not like loud music, a baby crying, a balloon popping, or a dog barking. My silent proof headphones help me out a lot. They are important to me. I carry them with me at all times. I love listening to music if it is not too loud. I also enjoy watching movies and cartoons if the volume on the TV is low. So please remember, my ears are very sensitive. Loud noises hurt my ears. Sometimes I wear my silent proof headphones. There are many others with autism that have very sensitive ears and very sensitive hearing. Loud noises can hurt their ears and make them feel very upset. Their silent proof headphones are a big help when loud noises happen unexpectedly. This is very important to remember.
Okay, next page. Okay, I'll describe it a little bit. Hold it a little higher. And this talks about some things about some expressions when I feel like I'm misunderstood. Yeah, when a sudden loud noise happens unexpectedly, bounce. Read what's happening in this page, Daniel, if you would, please.
This page talks about what sometimes causes a meltdown. This is something that the world needs to understand. This is also a very big challenge for me. When I get very upset, it is called a meltdown. I may hit, bite, or scratch myself. I also may run away from the situation. I also may yell out in frustration. A meltdown is when I get really upset and I am unable to explain or tell you why. I am unable to control my reaction to anything that is going on around me. Sometimes I cannot help it when I get really upset. I get upset when my world and environment becomes troubled and disturbed in any way I do not understand. For example, I find it difficult to handle it when my routine or schedule change without any notice. It is very important to understand that when I have a meltdown, it is for a reason. I may not be able to tell you why. This is an excessively big challenge for me. When those with autism have a meltdown, it has nothing to do with bad parenting. It is when they get really upset and cannot explain why they are upset. Most of the time, it is when their world and environment becomes troubled and disturbed. This is something to be understood and not to be judged or criticized in any harsh way.
Okay, and show next illustration, if you would, please. Next illustration has a whole bunch of question marks. What do you want to do today? How are you today? What do you want to eat? Explain what's happening in this illustration, Daniel. DJ, I'm sorry.
This is when he sometimes gets a little overwhelmed when he gets a lot of questions asked too much at the same time. Sometimes there are things that really upset me. One of them is when I get asked too many questions at the same time. I do not mind answering various questions, but I do not like answering personal questions. There are some questions that I do not know how to answer, but that makes me feel nervous. When I sometimes get asked too many questions at the same time, I feel very overwhelmed and frustrated. I like answering questions about what I like and do not like. Also, questions about what I love and like to do. Questions about my favorite foods and places I like to go are okay too. I enjoy answering if they are not asked all at the same time. Sometimes I need a little time to think of the answer. When you ask me a question, please give me enough time to respond. If I do not answer right away, I am not being rude. I am processing your question. Always be very careful with your questions and remember that sometimes it takes someone with autism more time to respond. Please be patient.
Okay. And by the way, I'm going to compliment you and tell you I think you're doing great in terms, at least with the questions I've asked you, not only, um, tonight, but when we've done email and, going back and forth. So I'm impressed. And I'm impressed with this book. Daniel, I think we have time for maybe just a couple more parts of the book. Let's take the next part, if you would.
Okay.
Okay, and these are things I guess you like. I love toys, love to pretend. I love different movies based on toys. And I love bowling. Describe what's happening there, Daniel.
All right.
DJ. I keep calling you Daniel, but DJ, I'll try to get that.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Many people with autism have the heart and mind of a young child. I do. I enjoy a lot of different toys that children love. Some of my favorites are superheroes and toys based on movies and cartoons. I also like to watch children's shows and cartoons. I like them because they teach positive lessons and there is never any bullying or treating anyone unkind. I enjoy characters that are silly, kind, friendly, and full of love. Characters that always accept one another for who they are. These different kinds of shows, and characters make me feel safe. These shows are a very important part of my world and environment. They are a big deal to me. My wish is that people would become more aware that many teens and adults with autism have the heart and mind of a young child. Please don't judge.
And I guess that's what I'm hearing you say about a lot of things. that people shouldn't be judging not only people with autism, people in general. It's nice that you don't have to judge people. You can just accept them, I guess, for who they are. I think that's kind of message I think I'm hearing from you. DJ, I think we have time for one more illustration, so why don't you choose maybe one more, and then we'll describe it as well. Okay, and this one, just hold it a little higher, and this talks about the whole issue why we're on the show today, autism awareness, and talk a little bit about that, DJ, if you would, please.
Most definitely. So you see, being autistic is part of who I am. Everyone with autism of all ages are very important and very special. They have a heart and amazing and awesome place in this world. I think, feel, and see things and the world and life much more differently and from a very different point of view. I have things I like and things I do not like. I have my own world and environment. Sometimes I do things differently in a way that makes more sense to me. The things that bother me do not bother others. There are some things I am interested in and things that I am not interested in. I love spreading joy, kindness, happiness, and laughter everywhere I go. I love making friends and encouraging and inspiring others. I am very determined to make the world into an even better and greater place for everyone. I want to help the world to know that autism is to be known and understood, and that with great teamwork, we can all spread autism acceptance and autism inclusion everywhere. Remember to take the time to get to know others with autism. They share love, joy, kindness, and encouragement in many amazing and unique ways. You will be surprised when you see how awesome everyone with autism are and how they too can make the world into an even better place for everyone. The power of teamwork can spread autism acceptance and autism inclusion all around the world. Remember, there is no such thing as impossible or impossibility.
It's a great way to close parts of the book that you read. And I love it too, DJ, how you describe and other people describe you as an autism advocate and autism ambassador. And you are the absolute best, doing that. You do a phenomenal job. TJ, let me ask you this. Two things. One, could you show the front cover of the book again?
Of course.
We'll just give it again. So the name of the book is what's the name of the book? The Bouncy Wouncy? The name of the book is what?
Bouncy Wouncy Marty shares a day of my life with autism.
I love it. And if people want to get a copy of that book, what's the best bet?
The best way to order one, or as many copies as you'd like, visit me, Daniel Svoboda, on Facebook and PM message for details.
Okay. So, and one of the things DJ is very good at is if you write him, he will get back to you. And you're great at that, DJ. So thank you for that. Also, I wanted to mention, too, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, not so much for the book, for any other reason, to have you do some speaking, you do a very good job as a public speaker, getting out into the community. Same thing, too. The best bet is to reach you through Facebook?
That, too, and visit our website at djandtheimagifriends.com.
Okay, and you'll certainly get a lot of information. DJ, I want to thank you for being my guest this first half hour on the Blaine's World Show. As always, a pleasure speaking to you either in person or Zoom or via email. And hopefully we'll be in touch and actually get to see you again in person sometime in the near future.
Oh, okay. Of course, sir. Thank you so very much for this awesome opportunity.
Well, Alexa, and thank you for teaching me and our audience about autism. And as always, you did a great job. So I'm going to have you, I want to put you in the waiting room, and we'll speak to you hopefully in the near future, DJ. Be well.
You too, buddy, and Happy New Year.
Likewise. Thank you much. Be well. Okay. And we're going to, as our next guests come in, I'll bring them in just a second. I think we see one. And I should mention, let's see if we can get them both in. If Marcy's there, we're trying to get you. There we go. And Tom will be with you in a second. And we'll have Marcy hopefully join us. I should mention that WPVM's mission is to foster community through programming that cultivates dialogue to inform and entertain. The station provides the medium for artists, businesses, community leaders, and nonprofits to share their voice on live radio. Listeners are invited to help support WPVM's efforts by making a tax-deductible contribution. You can do so by going to the website wpvmfm.org and also look at the donate option on the upper right-hand side. It's next my pleasure to introduce Tom and Marcy Gallagher, authors of personalized romance novels. And you can say hello to all your fans and friends in Facebook world. So you can wave.
Hey, everyone.
Okay,
Hello, everyone.
There we go.
Hello, everyone.
And
Hey, Blaine, who's that cute girl up on the other screen?
I don't know. You recognize her?
I'm just seeing her, and she just lights up that screen. That's beautiful.
Okay.
What a handsome guy is sitting there, and Tom too.
This is yeah. This is
Okay.
what happens with romance writers, by the way.
Yes.
Mutual fan club here. And we'll talk about the romance writers, but I should mention that Marcy and Tom are married and love romance. Marcy has written 4 personalized romance novels: Treasure Seekers, Heart of the Keys, Rome, Diamonds, Danger, and Desire, and Season's Greetings, Season's Love. Tom collaborated on the storylines for these books and wrote one as well, Wild West Love Fest. Tom and Marcy are the former owners of Kilwin's Chocolate Fudge and Ice Cream in Asheville and Black Mountain. Both were involved in a civil law practice for most of their careers. So the question I have to ask you guys is, how do you get from what you did previously to all of a sudden becoming romance, not writers of romance novels? When you were kids growing up, is that what you wanted to do, write romance novels?
No.
Never even thought of it.
Never thought about it.
When did you decide to do this, Marcy? What got you into it?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I actually learned about yournovel.com, which is the company that produces these romance novels, and Tom and I are contract writers for them. And Tom introduced me to them when they were having their 10th anniversary, and they put out a call to writers to submit short stories in their personalized romance format. And I entered the contest and won it, unbelievably. I didn't win the grand prize. I won the first prize, which was, interestingly enough, a trip to the Grove Park Inn.
We were living in Florida at the time, so that was a big deal for us.
Yeah, that was.
Now, had you written before that, Marcy? Done any writing?
I dabbled in writing. I enjoyed writing throughout high school and college and even afterwards, but never thought about writing a short story, let alone a full novel. So after
you win the contest, then what happens?
Well, that was good. The short story of the 10 top winners of the short story contest appear in a book called Celebrating Romance, which is also available on yournovel.com. So it's a compilation of the 10 short stories. So that was nice. And I'm going along, and all of a sudden, a couple months later, I get a call from Kathy Newbern and J.S. Fletcher, who are the owners of yournovel.com and the people who started it. And they said, would you like to write one of our novels for us? And I said, wow, great opportunity, but there's a huge leap from writing a 15-page short story to writing a 150-page novel. They said, oh, we know you can do it. Just pitch us a story and take away with it. So that's what we did. And that's how The Treasure Seekers was born. That was my first one.
Now, at the time, you were also working full-time?
Yes.
And
Yep.
So you did this in your spare time, writing this
Did
book?
this in my spare time. It took me about 6 months to write it.
Okay. Now,
Write the
what's
first one.
so cool about the book, and I'll have you describe it, Marcy and Tom, feel free to jump in, is it's a novel, but what makes it so unique?
What makes it unique is the novel is about the couple.
Whoever buys the book, they're the stars of the story.
Yes. And how you achieve that is that Kathy and Fletcher developed a program where the people who want the book go on yournovel.com. There's a 20 item questionnaire listing your names and your hair color, eye color, favorite radio station, and on, favorite color, the vehicle he drives, the nearest airport. And so you answer these questions online, and the program weaves those items into the story, which is what we write. We write the basic story, and then those items, those characteristics of the couple, are woven into that through their program.
Now, when you write the novel, do you write it with the idea that you had to leave blanks, or that things are going to be written into the novel?
Yeah, what you do is, so it would be John and Mary, and you capitalize those when you're typing it in. And anytime you get to one of the characteristics of the couple, then you capitalize, like blonde hair. Blonde would be capitalized, or Fort Lauderdale Airport, that would be capitalized. And then the program picks up on that and then inserts whatever the couple who buys the book puts into that questionnaire.
Yeah, I have to admit, though, I was a little disappointed the first time we got the book. I think we listed you and Tom as our favorite couple. Don't tell anybody. But also, Tom, it was unfair that they didn't have an option for hair color bald. I don't think that was the option. I had to make up a hair color for me or something. But you were somewhat restricted on what you can put in. So I couldn't. I don't think bald was an option, if memory serves me correctly. But,
well, we're going to have to make sure we do that in the future.
Yes.
That she stroked his bald head.
Well, Tom, as you describe it, and what you mentioned too, as you're listening to Tom, you can also hear that something else he does in his spare time. Tom, in another life, had been a lawyer, but he also is now a voiceover artist, and you can hear just by listening to his voice. And Tom, talk about that fact that the book too, what's so unique about it. You have two options when you buy it, right? You can buy a regular book.
That's right. You can get the book in different flavors, if you would. The first one is mild, and that takes out all the juicy parts, I guess you'd say. And then you can also buy it in a wild version. And I think 90% or more of the books that are sold are bought in the wild version.
Oh, really?
As a matter of fact, one of Marcy's first books was my parents, who are octogenarians at the time, were bought the book, and it's about Jim and Barb and their exploits in bed or elsewhere. And one of the grandkids came by and picked up the book, and they were mortified.
Oh, so they got the wild version?
The folks got the wild version, and one of the grandkids saw it and started reading through it, and you could watch them blanch.
There's another story, Blaine, again with Tom's parents, where Barb was involved in a book club.
Right.
And they got one of the books, and she decided to read a section to her book club, and explaining that this is the person that Tom is dating. And so she read the excerpt, and apparently it was one of the wild excerpts. And one of the ladies said, "Well, who is that vixen that he's dating?"
Well, when you write the book, do you have to write then two versions, or do you write it, or we write it?
We write it in a wild version, and then the publisher.
That's the most fun.
Yeah, and then the publisher tones it down for those who want the mild version, and the mild version is much more friendly than passionate, I guess you'd say. The passion is there; it's just not quite as descriptive.
Well, I have to mention to folks, as we talk about this, and the show, you'll be seeing the show before Valentine's Day. If you were looking for one of the great gifts of all time, this is, I think, one of the great gifts. We won't talk about the pricing of the website, but I'll say it's very reasonable, in terms of getting a copy. And if you really want to surprise somebody, do this. And I think the first time I did it, Marcy, I'm trying to think which, it was the one about the plantation, or in Florida. I think we got the book about the What was the book we got? It's one of your books.
It was either Treasure Seekers or Heart of the Keys.
It was
were
Heart of the
both
Keys.
recording.
That was it. Heart of the Keys.
Yeah.
And so,
Yes.
so describe how you came up with the idea for that. Yeah, that was the book, right?
Yes.
Eh.
Well, the books are located in either resort type areas or exotic locations. And Tom and I came up with the idea of doing a book from Key West, which has its own unique flavor. And Key West became the center point of this couple's vacation. And then there's some mystery that's involved with it. And really, really funky, crazy characters too, which is what makes writing these books so much fun, is we have liberty to create really cool characters surrounding the couple and that interact with the couple.
And at that point in time, I was merely a research assistant to a romance novelist, which is an excellent job, by the way. Anybody who's listening who wants to find a new career, research assistant to a romance novelist, that's a real good one.
And so you had to go to Key West and all these different locations.
We
Had you been to Key West?
Yeah, had been to Key West, but not with the idea of writing a book. So, there's a lot of, again, research that has to be done just so that you get the true flavor of the experience of being in Key West.
Oh, you're talking about outside the B&B.
Outside the B&B,
okay,
right.
okay. Got
There's some good
it.
description inside the B&B too, but
Wait, now before you wrote that book, did you actually go to Key West again a second time?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did you really? Okay. So what got you then, Marcy, into writing more than so you write the first book, what got you into writing a second, third, and fourth book?
Kathy and Fletcher asked me to.
And they're fun.
We love your book and we'd like you to write another one, because they were trying to expand their repertoire of books, because Kathy and Fletcher were the ones that originally were writing the romance, personalized romance novels. And then they got into travel writing. So they wanted a contract writer to write the novels along with them so they could expand the offerings on their website.
Well, then the question I have is, how then you lose your research assistant or associate to all of a sudden become a romance novelist himself, Tom? How did you get into this?
Well, what happened was a few years back, I had some significant surgery, and I was told that following the surgery, I could not do anything for 6 weeks. And there was only so much Judge Judy I could watch. And so instead of doing that, I opted to sit down at the typewriter and crank out a story. And I was just having a blast with it. And that one was Wild West Love Fest. And we talked over basic plot and that sort of thing. And I just dug in, and within the 6 weeks, I sent it off to the publisher, and they said, "This is great. We love it."
Now, was yours the first historical type or novel
I
they
believe-
have done?
I believe it was. And the Wild West Love Fest it's an interesting concept in that the couple end up flying from wherever they live out to Denver. And then from Denver, they're at a ranch, and they start out on a hillside, just the two of them, where they rode as the morning sun was coming up. And that it starts out pretty interesting. Do you want to hear a quick sample of how that
great.
starts?
Now, wait, I have to check with you though. Is this the mild or the wild version we're going to hear?
This is the wild, but I'll keep it tame.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. A cool breeze washed over Marcy's body, sending a shiver from the nape of her neck down to her toes. Tom felt her quiver, then looked deeply into her hazel eyes. "Are you cold, cutie? Or is it my sensuous touch that gave you goosebumps?" "Both," Marcy responded, smiling. Her gaze drifted to the cloudless, bright blue summer sky. "I'll take that as a sign to go on," Tom said. Marcy nodded. Her mind wandered. She was far from Asheville. The Colorado mountain meadow, with its swaying grasses, colorful wildflowers, and majestic vistas, was the perfect place for love with the man she'd grown to love over the past 17 years together. Tom ran his fingers through Marcy's auburn hair. Then lightly, he stroked her petal-soft skin. Marcy closed her eyes and fell into the magic of the moment. Tom softly and adeptly leaned inward, landing butterfly kisses on her earlobes. Her heart fluttered, and she registered the scent of his cologne as they embraced. Tom's excitement was also heightened by her signature fragrance, La Vie est Belle. Gently, barely touching, his lips warmed her skin, moving slowly down to the beckoning softness of her neck. His hand gently surveyed the curves of her stomach, then hip. Right now, he was a million miles away from here, from his job in Asheville, from anything that dealt with the current world. He was in Marcy's world and totally enjoying it. Marcy's senses heightened. Peaty aroma of the forest, the distant buzz of a bumblebee pollinating honeysuckle, the scent of which was just traceable in the air, and the whistle of a mockingbird and the return call of his mate. A languid breeze wafting over her. I better stop there.
Well, wait, and by the way, exactly, Marcy. Now, did we have also on that? Did you have a research assistant on that book?
I did, and there are fields in the Rockies. There are feather beds. There are all sorts of different venues that needed to be researched. But this was also essentially a cowboy western story, and it has mystery and everything else. And what happens is the couple in this story find themselves in the Old West, and they don't know how they got there. They don't know what has happened or anything else. And basically what happens is Marcy looks at Tom and begins to make fun of him because he's wearing chaps and a cowboy boots and a cowboy hat and a leather vest, and that's not what he wore when he rode up in the morning with her on the horses at sunrise. And so she comments on that to Tom, and then Tom responds, "You shouldn't talk too much about my cowboy clothes until you take a gander at your own fancy new duds." Marcy looked down and could not believe the pink calico dress nor the white pinafore she was wearing. "Tom, what in the name of tarnation is going on here? For Lordy's sakes, where are we? And why am I talking like this?" Before Tom could respond, the sound of racing hooves and the unmistakable sound of gunfire erupted from right down the road to the right. I'd go on there, but
when you were a kid, were you a fan of westerns?
oh, I loved them. Yeah.
Still does.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how you guys came up with this. But I'm thinking, Marcy, listening to Tom, it's almost maybe there's a career there somewhere for Tom to be a voice, to read like other people's books. Do you think?
I think he's doing that as we speak. No.
As we speak, yeah.
Well, Tom, let me ask you, in terms of these books, did anybody ever ask for to have an oral version, of it, or was that an option, or something maybe the company should do in the future?
It never was an option, really, because what's that?
Because they're personalized, so he'd have to do one for each individual.
Yeah, and it would be time and cost prohibitive for me to redo the books over and over and over.
No, but
and
I'm
over
saying
again.
even for the original couple, though, I could just see, it's fun to read it, but to have Tom read it is really exciting. It's a little.
One of the things we do with the books, whether they're written by us or written by the publishers or one of the other contract authors, is we'll sit in bed and read them aloud, and
take turns reading to each other.
Yeah, and that's fun. I mean, it's different than watching TV because you see these things in your mind. And you feel the feelings that are written on the pages. And Marcy is awful good with putting feelings on the pages.
Now, Tom, how does this writing compare to writing law briefs? Yeah.
I would be held in contempt if I wrote any of this stuff in a law brief. The law brief is all fact.
Yeah.
And while it takes some skill set to be able to mix in the facts and the law and make an argument that is persuasive to a judge, this is just plain fun, because you get to create right from start to finish whatever scene you want to. And the characters that we have in the books are just such fun too. For example, in this book, not only do we have Tom and Marcy, but we have Stumpy Burns, the stagecoach driver. We have Buddy Nebbish, the owner of the town newspaper, who will never let facts get in the way of a good story. We have Miss Kitten and the Marshal, and that's kind of a takeoff on Gunsmoke, but that kind of thing. And then we have Bo and Thaddeus, the Gold Dust Gang. Plus, we have a whole host of other characters in that book. And same way with Marcy in her book Down in the Keys. It is a riot at times, just the way she brings all the characters together.
Well, is this the book, Tom, too, with Roper Man, or is that something we just invented, with Brian? Who's Roper Man?
Roper Man was another book I actually did voiceover
okay.
for another author.
Yeah, because we hear Tom talk about these characters, and they come alive, even describing it now. And Marcy, I'll ask you to do the same thing, too. We heard a little bit from Tom's book. I think you have one of the books there, too. And could you just give a little bit reading from one of those?
Yeah. How wild do you want it?
Well, just give a kind of introduction, and then which book are we reading from?
I'm going to be reading from The Heart of the Keys.
Okay. That starred Blaine and Cynthia Greenfield in it, or the version we have.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Now, Tom, by the way, before you do this, Marcy, I once heard from another friend who's a writer, and he said one thing great about writing is you can also get back at people who kind of annoy you, or I don't know if you guys, I forgot if you killed anybody in your book, but that'd be a way to get back at people if they gave you a hard time. Just make them look, like in your book. Did any people die in your book, Tom?
No, but let's say that the scoundrel who was the newspaper guy, he was based on a real just sleazy reporter I knew down in Florida.
But you changed the name to protect the guilty, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Marcy, if you would, I cut you off in terms of from your book.
Okay. This is in chapter 6. Through the etched glass shower door, Tom watched Marcy's every move as she lathered. Mm-hmm. He looked longingly at her as she put one foot on the bench in the shower stall to shave her legs. Her movements were relaxed, refined, and sensuous. He finished drying off and wrapped the towel around his waist. It may be time to go to dinner, he thought, but the sight of her body makes me hungry in other ways. To express his appreciation of Marcy's elegant silhouette, he whistled. Marcy opened the shower door slightly and playfully posed like a model. Tom's blue eyes twinkled. "I want you" was written all over his face. Marcy winked and quickly closed the shower door. Tom realized that he was powerless to resist the urge. Instead of fighting it, he gave in.
Sorry.
He dropped the towel on the floor and joined her.
Oh my.
Tom and Marcy, do we know anybody named Tom and Marcy?
No, nobody. As a matter of fact, one of the things that's kind of fun is Marcy's books, the one that she wrote. She writes under the pen name of Marcy Thomas.
Right.
And the book that I wrote is under the pen name of Thomas Marcy.
And what was the reason? What was the reason for that?
Oh, we just didn't feel like using our own names.
Yeah. Is that it?
Protect the innocent.
Yeah. That's
but
right.
Now you.
By the way, Blaine.
Yeah.
These, like you were saying earlier, make great gifts. And Valentine's Day, boy, it's a great gift for Valentine's Day, and it's good to get an order in early so that hopefully the book can arrive on time and make somebody really happy.
And one of the things that's important to also understand is that the publishers have to create each book and print each book as a separate item, because they have to mix in all of these characteristics, the radio station you listen to, the type of music you like, the car you drive, where you work, where she works, her cologne, his cologne. All of these things have to go into various different places in the book, and it's not an easy task. So it takes time for them to put the book together. But when it does come together, it just melds like this, and you really believe that you're reading about yourselves.
Typically, how long does the book take? If somebody orders it from start to finish, they fill in the questionnaire, send it in. Typically, how long does that take to get the book?
What is it, Marcy? About a week?
About
10
a
days?
week. And that's pending weather delays in shipping, because they have control over it. I mean, the books are made, readily, and then it just depends on how long it takes to get them to their location.
Yeah, one of the concerns we have, particularly this year, is how shipping has been slowed down because of short staffing with the COVID virus, and because of just overflow of excess shipping that's being done this year compared to years past.
Now, if I remember correctly, there's also an option, if people want to, they can actually put in some pictures in this, or they're either the cover or
On the cover.
Yeah, which is kind of nice. So
Yeah.
you can have you can be featured on the cover as a whatever. So that's
Yes.
really, really cool. If people want to get this book, what's the best bet?
Go on yournovel.com.
One word, yournovel.com.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you'll see drop-down menus, and if you're interested in Heart of the Keys, you can order that one, or
Wild West Love Fest.
or any of the other titles that sound good to you. And then you fill out the questionnaire and put in your credit card information, and that's it.
Now, it's cool at the website too. I think you describe each of the books. There's a brief
Yes.
description of the stories.
Right, there are.
So,
Yes.
Marcy, you heard a little bit one story. Tom's. You had 3 other books you wrote. What were they?
Yes, The Treasure Seekers, which is based in Fort Lauderdale. And then one that's a real hoot is Rome, Diamonds, Danger, and Desire.
Where the male lead is a secret agent, or is he? Oh
Yeah.
my.
Yeah, and they get into all kinds of trouble there.
They do.
Okay. And then the other one?
Season's Greeting, Season's Love. And
that's a
it's
Christmas
great for
book.
around Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you wrote these a couple of years ago. Do you see yourself writing any in the future?
There's a possibility. Now that I'm pretty much retired, I really want to get into writing again.
As a matter of fact, that's funny that you asked, because we were talking about that earlier today.
Yeah.
That both of us have kind of an itch to pull out the writer's pens again and try and give it a try. I don't have a story that's created yet in my mind, and Marcy can start writing and bring a story from the first word to conclusion. I have to sit down and kind of map my way through, so I know what's going to be happening in it. And I haven't got that story yet. So
anyway, I just want to thank you guys both for telling us about it's yournovel.com. Is that it?
Yep.
yes.
And so if you want to get one of these 5 books we talked about, you're in for a real treat. I'd like to thank you for being guests this second half hour on the BLAINESWORLD show, as well as to DJ Svoboda, my guest on the first half hour, and Amy Persnash, my producer. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 9 a.m. here on WPVM 103.7 or on Facebook. And I'll say goodbye to you guys. Stay with me after we sign off. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Bye.